People say the royal guards never smile, never flinch, never blink, never show even the smallest crack in their armor of discipline. But on a cool London morning, surrounded by tourists and the chatter of passing crowds, one ordinary American traveler discovered just how powerful a single moment of kindness and a little humor can be. And that moment would ripple far beyond the gates of Buckingham Palace. That he hadn't come to make history. He was just a guy trying to brighten a stranger's day. But sometimes the smallest spark can light up an entire world. Before we begin, if you enjoy heartfelt, inspiring stories like this one, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us share more true moments of kindness here on Trendmasters US. The story begins with Jake Turner, a 29-year-old from Ohio who had saved for years to make his first trip outside the United States. London was his dream city, its red buses, its rainy charm, and of course, Buckingham Palace. When he arrived, camera in hand, he found the iconic royal guards standing at attention, still and silent, surrounded by excited tourists snapping photos. Jake watched them for a long moment. Something about their stillness tugged at him. They looked like statues forced into human form. Even from where he stood, Jake could sense the weight of their discipline, their duty, and maybe even their exhaustion. These were real people, after all, people with lives, worries, families, and feelings. Yet they were expected to stay frozen no matter what the world around them did. It must be tough, he murmured to himself. Most tourists tried to get a funny picture or stood as close as they dared. But Jake had a different idea, one that wasn't about pranking or mocking. He just wanted to give someone a reason to smile, even if that smile stayed hidden behind strict rules. So, with the camera recording, Jake approached one of the guards, a tall young man with sharp eyes and a jaw set like stone. Jake stopped a respectful distance away, placed his hand dramatically over his heart, and began a slow, exaggerated bow, as if greeting a king in an old comedy movie. A few tourists laughed. But the guard didn't move. Jake straightened himself with a grin. "All right, tough crowd," he whispered. He tried again, this time pulling an imaginary rope as though playing tug-of-war with invisible forces. He stumbled backward, flailed his arms, and pretended to lose the match entirely, falling to his knees in defeat with a theatrical groan. More tourists gathered. More chuckles spread through the crowd. Still, the guard remained perfectly stoic. But Jake noticed something, a tiny twitch at the corner of the soldier's mouth. Barely there. Almost nothing. But real. Jake's eyes lit up. "Oh, I saw that," he said under his breath. "One more try." He pulled off his backpack, dug around dramatically, and produced the most ridiculous thing he could find, a floppy rubber chicken he'd bought earlier as a gag souvenir. Holding it high like a royal scepter, he cleared his throat and announced loudly, "Your Majesty, I present to you Sir Cluxalot." The crowd burst into laughter. Even the tourists who didn't understand English giggled just from the energy of the moment. Jake made the chicken dance, flapping its wings stiffly like it, too, was trying to imitate a royal guard, and then it happened. The guard's shoulders shook, just slightly. His lips parted. And for the first time in what was probably hours, a warm, unmistakable smile touched his face. It wasn't wide, and it lasted only a second before he forced it back into place. But it was there. Real. Human. The crowd erupted with cheers. Jake froze, stunned. He hadn't expected it to work, not really. But seeing that small moment of joy, that flash of humanity, hit him harder than he imagined. Here was a man trained to be emotionless, yet kindness, silliness, and genuine warmth had cracked through the armor. Jake placed a hand over his heart again, but this time it wasn't a joke. "Thank you," he said softly. Later, when Jake posted the video, it spread quickly. Many people commented that it reminded them how simple acts, harmless humor, compassion, empathy, could brighten even the toughest day. Others said it inspired them to treat strangers with more kindness, because you never know what someone's carrying behind their silence. And Jake? He walked away from Buckingham Palace feeling lighter than when he'd arrived. He hadn't just made a guard laugh, he'd made a connection, however brief, that reminded him of the goodness that still existed in people everywhere. In a world full of noise, uncertainty, and distance, moments like these matter more than ever. They remind us that kindness doesn't need permission. It doesn't need to be big or heroic. Sometimes it's just a smile shared between two strangers on a cloudy morning far from home. Let this story inspire you to spark a little light wherever you go. You never know whose day you might brighten or how far that light will travel.